Welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
Today we're taking a look we're just going to have a discussion about some of the non-wargame board games that we played in 2020 and enjoyed.
Yeah.
And just putting that out there.
We're not doing a ranking.
No, we are not. This is not a ranking.
We didn't play enough to do a ranking, but we played some good ones.
Yes. So, we'll just dive right in, frankly, because we're just going to talk about, I think there's 7 or 8 games that we played this year that weren't war games that both thematically we enjoyed or mechanically were very fun.
Yeah.
So to start with, Dinosaur Table Battles. One could argue that this is a war game.
I mean, you could,
but it's more of like
but I'm not sure dinosaurs
battle game.
Have the gray matter to consider what war is and strategy. They just run in.
Yes. So, very
other.
enjoyable, fun game from Hollandspieler. They have a game called Table Battles, which is a war game.
We love table battles.
Yeah, it's a cheeky little, 15-20 minute pocket war game, basically.
Yeah.
And this uses a similar modified core system of that, and it's dinosaurs instead of battle lines.
I mean, who doesn't like dinosaurs?
And you fight each other to death, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun, it's light.
Yep.
You could literally play this with anyone. The artwork is really cute, and, I don't know, just enjoyable, fun game. We did like a full Blownsies review of this thing. I talked about it for way longer than this.
I still have very fond memories of this. Yeah. I would prefer to play normal table battles, but this was a nice, light diversion. Not to mention, I like dinosaurs. Always have liked dinosaurs since I was a kid.
And this is a game that I will play with my kid.
Absolutely. And he'll love it. I really liked in this one, though, how... Did the T-Rex have 3 cards, or was it 2?
No, he had 3. So there's some 3-card dinosaurs
so cool.
and some 2-card dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And that effectively gives you more hit points.
And then there were some 1-card like raptors, I think were one. But it was just so cool to see the differences in the system that used the same system that table battles did.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
fun.
just a fun, nice theme on it, and they modified it enough where it's still cute to play.
So if you don't, once again, I think I said this in our previous video that we did on our ranking. If you don't know who Hollandspiel is, they make so many good games.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, Dinosaur Table Battles.
Dinosaur Table Battles was really fun.
What's not to like about that?
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear that, Dinosaur Table Battles...
Like, of course you want to play that.
I mean, you want to find out what it is.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. All right, I'll go to a little more serious of a game based on history.
Yeah, there's no dinosaurs in this one.
There's no dinosaurs in this one.
On that.
Maybe dinosaur-like thinking.
Well.
But anyway, Versailles 1919 from Gmt Games. This is designed by the tag team duo of Mark Herman and Jeff Engelstein. Jeff typically does Euro-type games like Pandemic.
Did you do Pandemic?
Yeah.
I thought it was Matt Leacock.
I'm totally an idiot. You gotta rip that out.
He did The Expanse.
I know.
He did something else, though, that is very popular.
Well, he did Fog of War, which
That's
we never
right.
played, from what company? Stronghold Games. Now I'm flustered. I feel bad about that. But yeah, Jeff and Mark, I apologize for that. Versailles 1919, a look at World War I and the end, the Treaty of Versailles.
Yes.
Why are you looking at me like that? You are.
I'm deciding if I'm going to cut that out or leave
Well,
it
you
in.
are going to cut it out.
Or if I'll just, bleep it out.
Yeah. Versailles 1919. A look at the end of World War I, the treaty that, divided up the world, basically, and ultimately led to the outbreak of World War II 20 years later.
Yeah, one of the causes.
One of the causes.
It can be said.
Well, naked aggression was probably the number one cause,
Yep.
but that aggression came because of some of the elements of this
the
treaty.
resolution of World War I did not help prevent World War II.
So this game, you play one of several countries involved. You can play the major players, United States, France, England, but there's also some of the minor players, Japan,
and
Italy, and there's just a really cool dynamic back and forth between all the different countries as you fight for the control of issues that ultimately score you victory points. and you're placing your little cubes on things, kind of voting on
this is my, I've got my resources is my, like, political influence.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to go hard on this issue, and then doing so I sacrifice my influence on these other issues that I frankly don't care about.
Yeah.
Or I might try to settle those issues for you to garner goodwill with you. You know, there's
theoretically
really
that's
negotiation between players.
If you let me take this one, I'll let you take that one because I know that one's important to you.
Yeah, and if you like, I've heard people complain that it's just like this is a cube pushing game, and to me, if you're not doing the negotiations, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah,
because that's where you get into the real. That's the fun stuff for me.
The enjoyable
enjoy that
part
stuff.
of the game, yeah.
But also, it makes the game... that's where the dynamics of the game are, is trying to wheel and deal in a certain way, and trying to place your cubes so that you have a say in lots of different things, and then adjudicating those, you know, to somewhat benefit yourself.
Right.
Without being too overt about it, and the player interaction between that takes this to another level that isn't just moving colored cubes around.
I just really had a good experience with this. We played this with our father-in-law and brother-in-law.
Yes.
We also played it in a prototype format at WBC in 2018.
19?
It was 2018.
My goodness, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was all paper and card. It was great.
Yeah, it was 2018 because I still worked in Brownsburg.
And we played Fire in the Lake in 2019.
Yes. Oh. So, played with one of the designers. We played with Mo from Mo's Game Table. We had a great time.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed this game every time we've played it. It's just a very good experience.
Yeah, if I've got 4 players, this is one of the games I would pull out.
Yeah, it definitely is a good game.
Yes.
So, Versailles 1919.
What else we got? Okay, so this is Space Marine Adventures, Rise of the Orcs.
And I didn't play this one.
No, I played this with my 7-year-old son, and he loved it. And that's
good.
That's part of the reason that I wanted to bring it up. Because Games Workshop, who makes this, have brought out a number of boxed games like this. I mean, they have
we played quite a few.
They have their figurines on sprues, and you cut them out, and you can paint those and stick them in your tabletop wargame armies if you're so inclined, or you got a nice little game in the box. And yeah, we've played a number of these, and generally speaking, you get a fun, light little game in it. This one is like a tower defense kind of game. Again, it's very light. You got a bunch of Primera Space Marines from different chapters, and there's just hordes of orcs coming in to destroy your little radar facility, and you got to kill them. Right? That's basically all the game is. But
it involves dice rolling and
but each of your Marines has their little set of weapons, and so they got some special abilities of how they do attacks and what those attacks look like. But it's really, really simple still. My 7-year-old was able to play it because, this is how many spaces you move.
Yeah.
That's the number on your card. When you attack, this is what you roll, and, it'll show a pattern of attack if it's different from attack what's next to you, basically. And so, I very much appreciate that this was a game that I could whip out and play with my son.
Yeah.
We also played Labyrinth of the Necrons, which is one that we had played.
Played that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So you played that with him?
We played this, and then we played that immediately afterwards.
Okay.
He liked both, and I was like, which one do you like best? He was like, this one. And I think it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
The other one has... you spend a pool of action points.
Yeah.
So you can mix and match a bit more. This one's you move this many spaces. It's a bit more direct. So this is one of his first board games.
Yeah.
A bit easier.
Yeah.
The cards are a little bit easier. But yeah, cheeky little fun game. I like the models in them. I'm going to paint them. I love that kind of stuff. Anyway, but the game's very simple, plays very quickly.
Yeah.
And, again, play it with my 7-year-old. That's why...
Right.
That's a big yes for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I played some board games with my kids, and it's hard finding those right games that they really will be able to understand but enjoy.
He's at the moment we play that, play King of Tokyo.
Yeah, that's always fun.
But he likes the team games. He doesn't want to fight me
cooperatively.
I don't know how to take my foot off the gas because I'm a terrible father.
That's funny. I was talking to my wife the other night about that. I've beat my children numerous times. Not because I want to win, but I'm not going to let them win or do the stupid thing.
I'm just going to drive him away from the hobby because he's never going to have any fun because I'm like...
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
All these rules.
Yeah, don't do that. This is another game. Actually, we have not played this one a whole lot.
Yes.
We've played kind of the introduction to the game, but I had a great time with it, and
It's very good.
we're gonna try hopefully later today to play a
Yes.
little bit more of this, but. This is based on the Aliens franchise. What's not to like?
Yeah.
When I immediately saw that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting in."
It's got plastic models.
Yep.
It's aliens. Let's do it.
There's a lot to like. This is a cooperative game, and it literally is. You're 7 or 8 Marines on a board. You have an objective or two, and guess what? There's hordes of aliens that are just coming out of the walls. So you gotta find them with
Yep.
your, your technology. You have different abilities, and then you just gotta shoot them. And you got to get out. So we enjoyed this. The game is stunning on the table,
Yes.
especially since you've painted it.
Yeah, I spent a long time. Well, I spent a good chunk of time painting up all of the different miniatures. We got the terrain pack, so we got all the little computers and the eggs,
Sentry
and the
guns.
face huggers, all of that stuff. I painted all of that. And if you want to see some of those, I got tutorials over on a YouTube channel called Sprugate, where I kind of go through my process of doing all that stuff. But yeah, it's gorgeous to look at, it's gorgeous to play with, and the mechanics are fun and interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a dungeon crawler.
It is,
Where you're
yep.
moving around in different rooms and
Yep.
doors and spaces, but it's aliens, so it's awesome.
Well, and there's a lot of great mechanics to it too. The deck that you have, it's what you use to equip your characters, but you don't want to have too much on your characters because that deck, when it runs out, not when it runs out, when everything gets exhausted,
Yeah,
you then lose, and it can happen really quick. Especially if all your characters have 4 full cards on them for equipment.
yeah. If you're not recycling cards, that's basically your timer.
Yeah.
And so if everything ends up in the discard, you're hosed from a
Yeah.
time standpoint. And so you've got that going on, but your timer is your cards that you're using, and when you shoot your weapons, you're exhausting cards.
Yep.
So all of these cards are moving around, and you're like desperately trying to recycle them back into the deck.
Yeah.
And it's what can I exhaust instead of discarding?
Yeah.
There's
And
so
then
much cool bits in it.
All the while, those blips are growing.
Yes.
That blip deck card, that's what I refer to it as, but it's
Like the alien threat.
the alien
something.
threat deck. You know the first couple cards aren't going to be that hard because they're seeded, right?
Well, in
that scenario.
in the first scenario, they're seated.
But man, you pull them off and you're like, oh, nothing happened. It was a false alarm, and oh, we only spawned 3 aliens this time, and they were far enough away that we could control them. But oh my gosh, then 4 guys spawned right next to us, and that's when the trouble starts.
But those the bits in this game, right? That deck, the backs of the cards in the alien deck have different backs on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a picture of the motion scanner,
tracker.
and this one's got 2 blips on it, so I know it's probably got a fairly easy encounter on the back.
Yeah.
The one that has 10 blips on the back,
It's
you're
gonna be
like,
tough.
okay, so we're about to get absolutely
Yeah.
hosed.
Because you
but
can see
don't
it
know
coming.
quite how.
But you can see it coming thematically because you have a motion tracker, and oh my gosh, they're
It's so good.
50 feet away.
It's
They're
so
in the
good.
room. And then they realize, they're right there. They're just up in the ceiling. So you get that tension.
Yeah,
and I really
it's fun.
enjoyed it. Not to mention it looks fantastic on the table. We had a good time with this.
Yes.
I'm going to continue. We're going to continue playing it. So I look forward to playing
More.
every single
More.
mission in that game.
We're going to continue the sci-fi theme.
Yeah.
Talking about this huge box called Stella Horizons from Compass Games.
This was such a fun game.
This might be one of the biggest games that I own. Although
Space Hulk's pretty.
War Room just showed up.
Yeah,
so
War
that
Room
takes-
just, yeah.
But I got that giant killer robots is pretty big too.
Yeah.
But this is huge and it is jam packed. My table is not big enough for the full game. That's the caveat to this game.
Yeah.
It is freaking huge. It's massive.
But the good thing about it is it's kind of modular.
Yes.
So you can literally fit it on a smaller table than you normally would because you don't have a huge game board.
But
the game board is modular. It's little planets, right?
But there's also lots of auxiliary boards.
you got cards
on our table,
and you
we
got-
were able
yep.
to fit in Earth, the Moon, asteroid belt, Mars, 2 Martian moons,
And it was about
then,
3/4
everything
of the
else.
table.
Basically everything.
Yeah.
This has the whole galaxy in it.
Yeah.
The whole solar system. Sorry.
Yeah, not
And
the whole
it's- and
galaxy.
it can be huge. But like, there's a bunch of different scenarios, so you can make it as big or as small as you want. So I appreciate that. But man, I love space exploration games.
And that's what it is, right? It's an exploration game. You're trying to go out and colonize planets and find resources and
do research. You can get into like shooting lasers at each other.
There is some combat
if you want to do that, but you also don't have to play with that stuff.
Yeah,
you can mix and match. There's a lot of nuts and bolts that you can add on with this, which I appreciate. I spend an embarrassing amount of my spare time playing a computer game called Kerbal Space Program, which is making rockets and launching them into space. It's like a video game version of this.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I don't know. I like to play with physical components. So having this out and moving things around, doing the little research, going up on your technology tracks about
satisfying.
where you do that on your tech trees, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But it is massive. So
yeah.
just know that.
And this is a really nicely produced game.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Compass Games is a war game company that they've kind of perfected the paper maps and the counters, but man, this just takes it to another level. This was really well produced, great components. This is a big game. They're doing a second edition, I think a Kickstarter of this coming up because it's sold out, and I think it's that popular. It's great. Yes. I really enjoyed this one.
I had a good time with this.
And we didn't play it as much as I would have liked to, but that doesn't mean we can't break it back out and play it again and play with more people. Yeah. It's not just 2-player. I think it plays up to
you can have
4 or 5
people on it.
Yeah,
it's
great
just
game.
A huge game.
If you like space exploration,
this is a good option.
You can throw in a little bit of combat. Yeah, Compass Games did a good job on that.
Yes.
That's one that they did that was really good. Another one that we liked this. This is by David Thompson and Phalanx. Europe Divided. This is a geopolitical game that pits the major powers, NATO and Russia against each other for control of, Europe and the Middle East and etc. And it's a game that you're fighting for control, much like a Twilight Struggle. The genius of this game is they use dice to represent the level of influence that you have in a certain area. And there's some combat in it. Ultimately, the game, you're trying to complete your objective cards.
Yes.
And those are randomly dealt, so they're going to be different every game. But you're trying to complete those to score victory points and ultimately win the game. I think it's a very interesting game. I think the card play is very interesting. I love that it uses, those dice, red, blue, and kind of the tan yellow color.
You eliminate all of the need for like a massive pool of counters by having this. It's very clean.
Yeah, to me it's almost genius, and I'm surprised no one has done it before this. But really enjoyed this. Europe Divided, Phalanx Games. I had a good time with this.
Yes.
So that came out this year.
The other game that I've got over here is, and this is a placeholder. So this is my Gloomhaven box lid. But this year we played a lot of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Now it's a smaller kind of introductory version of Gloomhaven. How many games of this have we played? What do you think?
Of Gloomhaven, I bet we've played, I want to say 70 or 75 over a 2-year period.
If we don't get to your war games, it's because we're playing this.
So we apologize for that.
But we basically completed that whole box.
Yep. There are a couple scenarios we haven't. We probably just need to go back and play them.
Yeah.
Whether we can get to them or not.
And there's
just
a couple
for
characters
fun.
we never unlocked, but like we've played an unconscionable amount of that game.
Yeah.
So our father-in-law loves that game. We always play it with him.
Yeah, we love it too, but it's a way for us to interact with him and play games with him. So that's why we've ultimately ended up playing it so much.
He gravitated towards that because when I first got that, we played it and it really clicked with him, and so we played it a lot because it was like I don't want to learn a bunch of other new games.
I mean, there were weekends where we would do it Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And
you play 3 or 4
much.
scenarios and you play 8 hours. So Jaws of the Lion came out in 2020, and it's just effectively as we are.
Like
it's
intro.
Just more of the same.
Well, but it's also an intro to the game because they scale some of the elements back. There are some new rules that have changed things slightly.
They refined some of the rules.
But it's like, so for instance, what I mean by introductory is I think you only have 4 characters.
Yeah, there's 4 characters, but like you don't start with your full deck of normal cards. You don't start with all of the rules in the first scenario.
Yeah.
And it's a very well done introductory game in the sense that, for the first scenario, it's like, do you have this? Use this rule. Do this, and so you kind of go through it. You play with this simplified hand, and then the next one they're like, okay, add these more cards in, and you do it. And then the third scenario, they're like, change these out, now get your real cards out.
Yeah.
Right? And so it ramps up pretty quickly, but it's able to do that because it gives you these bite-sized chunks. So after about 3 or 4 quick scenarios, you're into the full game, basically.
Yeah. So it feels more like just more Gloomhaven.
Yeah, at which point now we've got like 20 new cool Gloomhaven scenarios with totally new characters.
Yep.
And it's just more of what we love. So
And one of the things we really like, it's scenario-based. I really like that the scenarios are very different. Now, some people say, "Oh, they're really just the same," but they're really not.
Get out of here with that.
They have combat in them, but the monsters are always different. The setup is always different. The tactical setup, and then furthermore, sometimes you're running around trying to destroy columns, right, while fighting off monsters. And sometimes, remember the one that we had to bail out a ship?
Yes.
We ran back and forth. We pitifully couldn't get that one done hardly.
That was awful.
But, it just has different things like that where so it's not the same.
No.
Every scenario adds something or tries something. You're always fighting.
And even if it is the same,
it's fun.
The fun part of the game is using your character's abilities and maximizing them. And just love it. I love the game. And Jaws of the Lion was just more of the goodness that I like, with new, fresh characters and new scenarios.
I think we've only got 4 or 5 scenarios left, but we need to finish it so we can say, and then next year is coming Frosthaven. This year.
Yeah, it'll be out in August, September probably.
Right.
Who knows? It's been delayed a little bit, but
that's going to cut into our wargaming time. But
and the last game we've got also cuts into our wargaming time significantly.
Yeah, so this is Journeys in Middle-earth. This is the Shadowed Paths expansion. This is the first big box expansion to the base game. They had, up until that, they had a downloadable, a DLC pack.
Yes.
They had some miniatures. So you basically, in the first one, had 2 campaigns. One that came with the game and then one that downloaded. This is a new expansion with new characters, new cards, new miniatures,
new map tiles, a lot of it.
And one new campaign with a next downloadable DLC campaign. So we played 4 campaigns of this game.
We've played literally everything there is to play in this.
And we love it. So Shadowed Paths is, once again, just more Journeys in Middle-earth. It's a great game from Fantasy Flight Games. We love it.
Yeah.
We love it.
So you get all the new monsters. Those are great. Love it. All the new tiles. Great. Love it. New campaign. Excellent. And obviously your new characters are different with their new abilities and their new cards. But the only other major, mechanic that they added is the corruption.
Yeah.
And so
you got to manage that.
Yeah, you can, in certain situations, you can optionally accept corruption from the darkness
a big ability
to get a bonus.
Yeah.
But then, at other parts of the game, they'll be like, this terrible thing happens to the person with the most corruption.
Yeah. Or if everyone has at least one corruption, you take this. And it's just very cool. So they have added some new elements. And the one thing I do like about this game, I think 5 new characters they added, you can go back and use those in the first adventures.
Yes, you can mix and match any and all, everything cross-pollinates.
So it'll create a new experience, even though you're replaying a campaign. This one also, spoiler alert, added some branching choices. So
more than the other ones.
If you didn't do this, if you didn't do A, investigate the haunted house, you may never do that because it's not going to come back up. And then in the story, they'll say, oh, that house exploded.
There's a consequence to having not done that.
So you have to make your choices, and that was a new neat element. But more goodness. I enjoyed this. They're working on a new expansion. It's called War is Coming or Coming War or something like that.
We're never going to play a war game ever again.
Well, I don't know when it's going to come out. It's probably going to be 2022. But yeah, Shadowed Paths, Journeys in Middle-earth. So that was kind of eight board games that we played and enjoyed this year.
Yes. And we play a lot of war games. That's the majority of what our time is spent with. But when we're not, it's pretty obvious that we're fantasy and sci-fi themed games.
Well,
Generally.
isn't that what is on the table? Yeah. Or historical themed, like Versailles and Europe divided.
Let's get up Imperial Struggle, because that's not a war game.
Oh, it is a war game.
I know you think this is a war game. Here's why I don't... and everyone's definition is different. That's totally fine. For me, this is... war is one aspect of this game.
But it's everything because that's what you're building towards.
I disagree with that.
Okay. All right.
This is a point salad game. You've got to get points from economy, from trade, from war, and from prestige.
Yeah.
All of those things interact with each other. So...
but if you don't focus on that war, it's really going to hurt your efforts in commerce, and it's going to
no. But if you only focus on war, you'll lose the game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
It to me is there's so much more to it than just like a war game.
But isn't that what a good war game is? It's not just about combat.
Shut up! It just gives us a chance to talk about this game again because it's so good.
Okay, I love Imperial Struggle.
But yes, this is an excellent game, and if someone said it wasn't a war game, I would fully accept that. If someone did say it was a war game, I would fully accept that.
Right.
This is a much meatier game than some of these other ones. It is beefy. There's a lot to it. I love it though.
Yeah.
This is the kind of game that I like where everything interacts with everything else.
Yeah.
There are some games where I play where I'm like, I'm doing this thing and I'm ignoring that thing.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't affect this, and I'm just like, that's not. It's not that that's bad.
Yeah.
When they can do it like this is very good.
Yeah.
It's very, very enjoyable to turn a cog here and it turns this one, which turns that one.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff in a game. And it's, that stuff is incredibly difficult to design well.
Yep.
And it's very well implemented
done
here.
well. The other thing I really enjoy about this game and the concept behind this game is this really rewards planning. I mean, you've got to kind of look at the state of the board. You got to understand what is upcoming. You got to understand what's happened and how you kind of want to build towards that. Because you're right, you don't want to ignore any one aspect. I don't want to give up totally on commerce or influence or war. I can't. If I do, you're going to reap the benefit every single round unimpeded, and therefore can even fight me harder on the other 2 or 3 aspects.
Yes.
So it's a matter of really balancing it, and planning is integral to that. That's probably what I enjoy the most about it. That's also why I feel like it's a war game, because everything's culminating, I think, in the war. And if you mess around with the war and don't do anything, you're going to really lose out. But that's my opinion.
Yes. So
I love this game.
Yes, we played a good number of other board games this year as well. Just wanted to kind of give you a smattering of those things that we played and really enjoyed. There's a lot of stuff that if you want to check it out, go check it out. But yeah, we're very fortunate to be able to play lots of different styles of games.
Well, and we say this often, we have very supportive spouses.
Yes.
We do have children. I have young children, you have young children. So yeah, we appreciate both Paisley and Kelly and allowing us to play. So we have a good time.
So thanks very much to them. And yeah, I would recommend basically any of these different board games.
Agreed.
If, and board games, it's, I don't know, if you're interested in the theme, I would say take a punt on it. Go for it, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are a bit more involved, like Lord of the Rings. It's a big campaign game. You need to have a group. Yeah,
you're not going to play some of these one time and put it on the shelf for a year. If you do,
you play through a whole story and it's scenario based. And that's a game where you'll want to play more because of that. Gloomhaven draws the lines kind of the same way. Yeah. And even Aliens, you play a scenario, and then there's like the next scenario. You go through like there's 3 or 4 scenarios, and that's like the movie. And then there's all like the extra bug hunt stuff that you can do. So those are maybe a bit more involved in that way. Mm-hmm. Things like Versailles, Imperial Struggle, Europe Divided, those are like one-offs. But that's a good game night game because those take a good chunk of time. Yeah. Something like Dinosaur Table Battles, it's a little filler game almost. Mm-hmm. You can play it 4 or 5 times in a row, and it still only takes about half an hour. But that's one that you can kind of chip in anywhere. So that there's a lot of different variety here. I'd recommend basically any of them in the right situation. For the right game.
And there's also, I think, a good smattering of player counts, right? This is a 2-player, but the rest are multiplayer.
Yeah.
You can play solo, you can play 2 people, you can play up to 5. And that's, to me, that's the hallmark of a good game. It scales well across multiple numbers of players, and you can break it out with anybody.
Yeah, it brings people together as well, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, appreciate you guys tuning in. These are the board games that we played in 2020.
Yep.
And I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.